Today I'm going to be repairing the bottom of my Starboard Isonic 131. There are 5 spots that need repairs. All of them passed the soapy water test where I stuck the board in the sun, closed the vent screw, made sure it's sitting in the sun for a little bit, cracked the vent screw to make sure the bubbles foamed up. It foamed up really nicely, and then I closed the vent plug, sprayed the whole bottom, the whole top with soapy water, carefully looking for any extra bubbles coming out. It had no extra bubbles even on the damaged area, but I just want to make sure it won't leak in the future because there are definitely damaged spots. First spot, second spot. The third spot is for me mounting my Starboard team set foil, and as I pulled it out, it pulled a chunk off. Now it is fully sanded, now it fits pretty good and comes in and out nicely, but this is a spot that had carbon box and then foam and then carbon, so essentially this is not really a bulletproof foil box. I would prefer to use this board with something like a slingshot foil with a full flange, just make sure it works well. Plus this board is 85 centimeters wide, and for my team set I really like my 1 meter wide formula board. So I'm not sure if this board is just going to be used for slalom and like a slingshot with a full flange, or I might find I really like my Starboard team set with this board. Something to discover soon. And this is another tiny little spot right there. Again, kind of pulled up, so I just sanded a little bit around the edge. And this fifth spot is just a really small crack right there. And this didn't bubble, so I'm just going to put a little bit of bead of just neutral colored resin. Masking prep is going to be pretty easy. Just going to have to stick out a little bit. Go around here. Just to make sure resin does not go in the box. I've got 80 grit to kind of rough up the area. There we go. And wipe with denatured alcohol. That one's good, ready for repairs. I'll do that to the rest of the spots. Your board can make a nice workbench. Just put some cardboard down. I'm going to do 4-to-1 hardener to resin. I'm going to do this spot right here because that's just red, so I can have that be clear. And I'm going to do most likely a 2 parts white to 1 part black will get me this gray, and I can always fine tune it if I need to a little bit. It doesn't have to be a super dark pigment, just to kind of blend out the board a little bit. I got these 2 spots all prepped. The nicks in the Tuttle box are prepped. Just do a nice light coat just along this ridge, and then kind of do a thick bead for extra strength, rather have it a little strong. That's it. I'm going to put some carbon fiber in here just as reinforcement, and my theory is it'll just help a little bit with shock absorption, maybe a little bit extra with strength, but not too much. I want the resin to go down nice and easy. Yeah, something like that. A little bit of carbon fiber threads. That's, I think, all the resin epoxy I want. I don't want to put too much down. It would just require too much sanding. And actually, I'm going to start removing some. I'm just letting it stick to my applicating tool. Around. That looks pretty good. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Yeah, maybe just a tiny drop is all I need. Carbon is absorbing nicely, or saturating nicely. And I'm going to start removing, actually. Just need a little bit of material. That's good. I'll come and touch it up in a little bit. It's okay if it touches on the blue tape, because that'll be really easy to sand flat. What I want to pay attention to is that not much resin goes over this lip right there, because then it won't be much sanding. Nope. So looks pretty good. I'll clean some spots up, and I'll just wipe this extra off right now. Okay. That's trying to remove resin epoxy bits by bits because it's a little overfilled. If I get it just right, it'll be perfect. There are a couple of dings, really small there and there. What I did notice is there's 2 hairline cracks right there, and they're not bubbling up, so they're not leaking. But I'm gonna go ahead and put some resin epoxy color tint on there. Putting resin on there will help the cracks not get bigger. Here's a better view of that crack and that crack. Oh, I also sanded and used denatured alcohol. Since it has pigment in it, this should not be susceptible to any sun damage, so it should not flake or get yellow after time, because the sun is hitting the very outside layer of pigment but not getting baked through all the actual resin epoxy. Where in the past where I just put some resin epoxy, it's like, oh, it's clear, it'll be fine. It looks yellow. I did about a 3-to-1 resin to hardener, so this should cure up really fast. I want to make sure this is a level repair, not an overly high repair. Maybe a quick 400 sanding. Nice, I'm happy with that. Let's see how it turns out after it's cured. The resin epoxy is fully cured, but it's not super hard. So this is a great time for me to sand off the extras. Fully cured, it just take a little extra time. There we go. Pull down and away. Just a thought to not delam the structure. So there we go. Nice piece here, but I think this will be able to sand down pretty easily. This is 120. I'm actually gonna try 40. Just be careful not to scratch the surface. I'm gonna try the chisel, see if this will cleanly take off the edge. Yeah. Save me a lot of time. Make sure your chisel is sharpened. Makes this easier. There we go. A little back and forth seems to help. Don't push forward too hard, otherwise it'll make it pull over, but a little back and forth kind of sawing action helps to pull off the extra layer. Oh, and that's a hole, but I guess the resin didn't get all the way down. Well, I'm done with the 40 grit. I'm gonna go to 120. So I'm going to try something different. I'm going to put a little carbon fiber in the hole and use a couple of drips of super glue to see how this holds up. Should be pretty fast curing, and this little tiny hole might be good enough. Now I know if super glue isn't touching 2 items, it takes a little longer to cure, but if it's in a little bit of carbon fiber, having there so many fibers, it might cure faster. So I'll check out this in a little bit and see when it's cured, and sand off the remaining carbon fiber pieces. For this spot, it's not sticking up too much, so I think I'll start with 40 grit. Yeah, I'm actually curious if this seems to be working well. I'm not sure if the blue tape is a hindrance or it's a help to keep me from sanding other parts of the board, or if it's making my visual not as good, so it's harder to see what I'm doing. I'm gonna try to move it. Okay, so some resin epoxy dipped down below. That's okay, just a little extra time. I think I can focus the 40 grit sandpaper enough to where I am not sanding into the board. Yeah, I like it better without the masking tape. I just can see the area better, especially because the masking tape made it soak in, so this will be more work. Or if there's no masking tape, I wouldn't have to sand this spot here, I don't believe. This feels flat already, so I'm going to go to the 120. If I go over the spot a little bit, I'm not as concerned with the 120. These 2 spots, I'm just going to use 120. Go back and forth. Rough it up, smooth it up, real fast in these guys. That's
should be good. Start with taking the blue tape off of this one. Didn't seem to help. Straight to 40 grit. Well, I didn't mention it yet, but the reason why I didn't go for a square sheet of carbon fiber, either 1 to 3 coats for this damage, is when I cut the small square, it just kind of fell apart into fibers anyway. It was really difficult to deal with and work with, so I thought this is such a small damage, I don't really need to go out far enough for the cloth to stay into one piece, that I can just cut up a couple fibers and just put the actual resin epoxy on top, and that should hold just fine. Of course, I could go bigger, or if there's a tighter weave of carbon fiber, that might work better for smaller repairs if I really wanted to get into cloth repairs. Yeah, that's fairly fat. Go to 120. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's smooth. And for now, I think this will be okay without 400 grit. I think it'll be just fine. Nice. It looks like the super glue is cured. Much faster cure time than the resin epoxy. With the carbon fiber mix in, it should be strong enough. Yep, that's cured up. 120. It's working pretty well. It won't be as strong as the resin epoxy, but there's just a quick touch-up spot. I think this would definitely be an option, mixing with some carbon fiber. Or make sure the foil does not catch again. Nice smooth in and out is what I'm looking for. Nice. Well, this looks good and ready for the water. First time I put the foil in, I'll go nice and easy, and if there's any big sticking, I'll immediately take it out and start to sand any friction spots.